So there might be a sense of like, oh man, dog brothers, they just go all out and they kick each other's ass and blah blah blah. But there's more to it than that.
My name's Jamie Sparling. Welcome to the FormABLE podcast. Today I have Maul Dog Carlos Flores from the Dog Brothers Group in Chicago. How are you living today, sir?
You know what? I'm living large because I'm
Yeah,
still living.
good, man. That is such a good attitude. And, I just recently was able to go to the Dog Brothers gathering. And one of the cool things that I saw was the attitude of people after the fight.
Hmm.
That was absolutely fascinating to me,
Well,
and
so how? Like, how was it fascinating for you? Like, what did you see?
well, as a martial arts instructor, I absolutely love and adore all this stuff. Okay? And so this stuff holds a certain place in my heart, and
Hmm.
sometimes when we try, we come up short. Right? Just in
Right,
general,
right.
that's part in the stick or the fist is the truth in the moment. Right? I like to tell
Yeah,
my
yeah.
students sometimes like, well, yeah, well, after I get up, I'll tell you how that punch might have been wrong, but wow, not for nothing. So
Sure.
at the
Yeah,
very beginning of the event, Guru Crafty Mark Denny had said the only rule was everybody got along at the end.
correct.
And then I watched as everybody lined up and they had their fights, and I was nervous for people. Okay, I mean,
Sure.
literally, I'm just kind of like checking it out, and as there's a little bit of nerves, and then the first fight went, and the next fight went, and then you could watch the two people that were standing next to each other, and there was maybe some nerves. Now all of a sudden, man, they're hugging, they're
Mm-hmm.
loving on each other, and
Mm-hmm.
some of the folks that maybe in their mind came up short, right? The other person was like, man, but you did this really, really well. It was just a positive environment, is what I thought for the most part,
I think
and
100%. You're right. And yes, and I still recall my fights, and I'm semi-retired, so I'm not going out to do those big fights anymore.
mm-hmm,
I just do local things, but you're right in that there's some of the nicest people in the world come together to beat each other up and really try to beat each other up for the most part. And at the end of the fight, and at the end of the day, they come away with such a bond with each other,
mm-hmm,
not just with the people they fight, but with everyone present, because it's such a shared moment. That space, it allows people to really express their art, whatever it may be, because not everybody that fights at these gatherings are all practitioners of dog brother martial arts. So you
mm-hmm.
have people that come from other areas like JKD, other Kali groups, and they come and they test themselves. And I think you mentioned something, and you're kind of leaning towards that. There's truth, and you realize like, okay, where's my training? Am I representing the art that I'm training in correctly? Am I also expressing myself freely? And at the end of that, am I comfortable with where I'm at? And there's truth to that. And it's not so much the art, it's not so much the person, but it's everything in general, because you could also be having a bad day, and different variables, maybe something happened the day before, you can't shake it off, you're not at your full potential, but you still get a chance to learn, and you get the chance to process. And people are like, well, let me come back next time and see how I do then, because now I know what I need to work on. Or it's a fight. It's a fight. And as an instructor myself, when I'm teaching others to get to that point, whether or even just to spar,
Mm-hmm.
my understanding and my experience through these fights is that fights are both chaotic and that they're organic. They're chaotic in that you may have a list in your head of techniques or combinations that you want to do, but it might not happen. So there's complete chaos. Then you might see the moment where you can do it and you actually pull it off. But then it's also organic in that it's also ever evolving within that moment. So those two kind of end up balancing itself out. And when you get away from these moments, there's just such growth, man. Not just physically, but mentally and also spiritually. And one of the credos is higher consciousness through higher contact.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much truth to that, because you have a guy maybe this is the first time you meet them, and they're trying to knock your head off, but you're also doing the same thing. And the reality, I mean, it's a fight. It is controlled in that obviously we're not fighting to the death. One of the bigger rules there is you are responsible for you, meaning I obviously don't want to hurt the other individual to the point of sending them to the hospital. Sometimes it happens because it's a fight and accidents happen. And I also want to know when I'm done, right? So the ego plays a big role in that. You have to remove it beforehand, and kind of like, when I would do these fights, and just thinking about it kind of gets me pumped up. Towards the end of my fighting, I would almost accept my defeat, and in accepting my defeat, I would be free from it, so
Ah.
that I would fight freely, right? And just express myself as best I could. Whereas in the beginning of my journey with the Dog Brothers and those fights, I started in 2011, and it was a couple of years after my dad had passed away. So I was carrying something in me that needed to be expressed. And the Dog Brother gatherings allowed me to express myself in a more positive way versus bottling up inside and having it manifest itself into something negative that maybe, I have a family, maybe would come out towards them. Or actually, I didn't want it to come out. So I needed to harness it. And through my training, I was able to do that and just kind of start to peel away at the onion to get to the actual core of it, and these fights in the beginning was what it was. And I guess looking back and seeing other people that go, it's not so much a way to test yourself. Yes, it is that. But I think for a lot of people, it's a form of healing,
Hmm.
and you kind of, you go through the fire in order to cleanse yourself. And I guess in essence, rise like a phoenix, right? And I think the reason I kind of stopped going, is because I, for one, I didn't have that fire anymore, that motivation,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't really have something that needed to be healed. For the most part, all my demons were under control, and I do notice that a lot of people that go and keep going, and I hear them say, "Oh, this saved me." We don't go into details, so we don't really ask it unless, sometimes we do ask and we get the information, or they freely give it to us. But I really do feel that it's a good way to heal, physically, mentally, emotionally. At least it serves as a distraction too, because when you're getting for a fight, you have what's called the chatter, the anxiety, and now you have to overcome that, and that's your focus. So you're kind of avoiding everything else that has been maybe an issue for you,
You have to.
and you're honed. You have to,
Yes, sir.
because you're honed in. And once you get to the fight, man, at least for me, once I put my fencing mask on, I became something else, and I was able to just live the moment and be free.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Brother, that's amazing, man. Thank you for sharing that piece. I mean,
sure, sure.
I saw it, and I think I had mentioned to you that I might want to give her a shot. Maybe come down by you in Chicago, and then I have a condition. So there's certain things that if I took a knee in the abdomen, probably wouldn't be so good. I could go to the hospital, blah 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 blah. But there's something about, as I watched it, I thought, if I could do this and come out on the other side of it, it's like every other hard thing in life that, right? And those things that people give you advice about, all you got to do is this. And you're like, did you do it? And you're like, no, but, right? But then
Yeah.
if you could get there and get through the other side, I had no part of me that said, well, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to do a Cadena Real and a strip disarm, or no part. But I thought, that might be neat to come out on the other side of that. That's what I hear you talking about right now, brother.
It's 100%. And perhaps many people don't talk about this for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
I'm comfortable talking about my feelings. I'm okay with that,
Appreciate it.
and the process of going through all that. But yeah, when you come out the other side, and this is something that lasts for a while if you allow it to, there is a higher consciousness, in that you're kind of more open to the universe, and you're more aware of little signs that the universe is giving you, these little moments, these little messages that normally you'd ignore. But because you're so open and free, because you survive combat to a sense. I mean, it's still a sport, to some extent. But if you allow yourself, you can hear the universe talking to you, and it could be here. I'll give you a very trivial moment for me. It was
Please.
a time after a gathering, and something told me make a left here. I was driving for my work. I do home visits, and I was at lunch, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna turn here. I'm gonna see what I can get for lunch, and I'm driving and I see a place. I'm like, you know what? I haven't been there in a minute. Let me go there, and something was guiding me there, and I ended up running into a friend who I hadn't seen in some time, and it was such a cool moment because I got free tacos out of it. So, but it's something so simple as that, but because I was listening, there were other things, other greater things, but just something simple as that is like, okay, just turn here. Okay. Oh, there's that place. Let me go. And lo and behold, I haven't seen this guy. Next thing I know, he's buying me lunch. And it's stuff like that, and there's more to it. There is a better understanding of how things work in a sense, but it
Great.
does tend to kind of go away. And I think sometimes that's why people maybe want to go back to keep that feeling going too.
Yeah.
That peace. It's like a peace.
Well, what I heard right there, and correct me if I'm wrong, is in a way sometimes these fights coming on through the other side, anything where we're testing ourselves, is that we almost learn then to trust our connection or our intuition a little bit more because as a martial artist, right, we have all these tools. But
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
first three tools will be applicable almost all the time. Maybe the
Right.
other nine tools are going to take a specific type of pressure, either created by the opponent or ourselves. So that's got to be created in the moment, especially the more higher level techniques. I mean, everything's just got to be so for it to work just a certain way.
Yes. a
But what,
hundred percent.
yeah, but what I heard was trust in your intuition a little bit more. Was that correct or no?
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. And I think sometimes we don't do that, or
Yeah.
maybe not sometimes, maybe all the time. We don't really listen to our intuition, whether it's in our practice, in our art, in fighting, or even in life in general.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's always this doubt, and when you come through the other side of this, whether it goes well or not, you came through the other side of this. You don't doubt anymore because you went through something that not many people want to experience or have the opportunity to do it, right? So I think you're right on that. That intuition, you tend to listen to it more, at least for a while.
At least for a while. That was probably the most honest and part of that piece, right? Because we
Mm.
have moments where things are making sense, right? And
Yeah,
and before we started, you shared a quote from your mother, okay?
yeah,
Is it
yeah.
okay? Would you share that now and
Oh,
explain
100%.
that again? Because that fits right
Sure.
in with what we're talking about, brother.
Sure. So when it comes to life, when it comes to situations, and I'll add more to it,
Mm-hmm.
um, there are things that we can control and things that we can't. And sometimes we feel that we can't control anything. And there are situations that may be out of our control, but the one thing that you can control is how you react and respond to that experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my mom, and it's all about perspective. And my mom had this saying, and I don't think she made it up. I don't know where it came from, but
Sure.
it fit in my life. And she said it in Spanish: "Cada mundo es su propia cabeza," right? So every right. Well, I'm sorry. Now you put me on the spot. I got a
I'm
little nervous.
sorry, brother.
Cada cabeza. No, you're good. Cada cabeza es su propio mundo. Every head, it's its own world,
Mm.
right? So it's really how you take things, and how you accept what's going on in life, because life is not fair. I don't think it's meant to be. I think we're here to learn certain lessons,
Hmm.
and then whatever is after that, you carry that with you. What you leave behind is memories, because that's what was left to me by my mom, by my dad, and those that have gone away, is that those memories that you create are the ones that you leave behind to the people that you love, right? And I think when it comes to fighting in these gatherings, you're creating such memories because you're allowing yourself to live the moment. And when you're through the other side, if you hold on to that, you make more moments, and they're more meaningful
Mm.
because you're making them on purpose, because you're connected. You're connected to the universe. It's a higher consciousness. So I feel like there's a lot to attending these events. But in I remember a friend of mine. He was also involved in the Dog Brothers and studying DBMA. um, he sent me this wonderful story, and the end result is this from the story is that whatever is going on to you, whether it's good or bad, only time will tell. And I'll say that to people when we have challenging experiences, even positive ones. But really, you don't know. Time will tell whether it was good or bad. I could get into a car accident right now, and that could have, saved me from actually getting shot down the street.
Yeah.
You know, in extreme, but it's like, are bad moments really bad, or are they keeping us safe from something even more devastating?
And maybe
Right?
they just are, and they're not for us to put a label on it. Just, that's that moment of just is. When you
Yeah.
talked about the gatherings and whatnot, and I did not fight in the gatherings, I've not done it, but I know in sparring, going with an
Sure.
idea, right?
Sure. Sure.
Well, depending on the skill level of the person, that other person might not have that idea. So you might not get to do the thing you want to do. And if you spend 3 minutes going, oh, that right kick, I'm going to get that right kick, tends to look a lot like, oh, oh, that's my right.
Yeah.
The distance isn't right.
Yeah.
Something, because it's only right just at that particular moment.
Yeah. But there's experience there,
Absolutely. Finding the
and
right
so
time.
what is something like that? Yeah, correct. Finding the right time, whether you learn to create the right time, bless you, whether you create the right time on your own, or just kind of flow with what the other person is doing, right? Again, it's chaotic and it's organic. That's what even sparring is like that,
Yeah.
because you're working against an opponent that's not just feeding you, unless it's that type of drilling, that
Mm-hmm.
the drilling sparring where, okay, you're just going to feed me jabs and I'm just going to work around that. Yes, but at other times when it's free flow sparring, then yeah, you realize like, okay, where am I lacking? Is my range right? Is my distance, my timing, my speed? Am I off by a second? And it's all a learning experience.
And all,
Again, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, but so much like all those things are things that you could fix, but we have to get past the attitude part,
Well,
right? Of
get
staying
past the
in,
ego.
yeah, the
It's the
ego, the
ego.
attitude, this is what I'm going to do, or whatever. Or, in MMA, you'll always hear someone yell, impose your will. And that's
Sure.
great if you are in top physical peak condition and if you are that whatever that is, but that other dude's also trying to impose his will. So it's
Right.
usually not that easy of imposing will, but it sounds awesome.
Yeah. It's everything's a learning experience.
Yeah, brother.
You know,
So
and yeah.
I'm really interested. What brought you to martial arts? Tell me a little bit about Maul Dog and your origin story, brother.
Man, what got me into martial arts? So from the very beginning, I think it was like your typical. I was born in '77, so the '80s was more my time frame.
Mm-hmm.
And you get introduced to Bruce Lee, and you're like, man, that guy is awesome. How does he do what he does? I think that was the beginning point of wanting to get into martial arts. At least
Mm-hmm.
that interest. Um, I grew up in a very interesting neighborhood, in that it wasn't uncommon to hear gunshots, every other day, or especially on the weekends. That was just a part of Chicago that I grew up in. I don't know if that might have also influenced me into pursuing martial arts, into knowing that I need to be ready for something if it were to happen. I also don't know too if part of my origin story, being bullied at school a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
um, might have also influenced me. Yeah, these are your typical motivators to learn martial arts, right?
Yeah,
But
brother.
I think that definitely was some starting points for me, and I think at this point it's more about self preservation, and I think Guru Nasanto said something like, that's the highest form of love is when you learn to, and I'm going to butcher it, but when you learn to defend yourself and when you learn to defend those that you love, like
That wasn't
It's the
butchered,
highest
brother.
form of
That wasn't butchered. That was
no.
pretty. That was a lot closer than you think.
So I think at least now that's why I'd like to teach, to spread this knowledge, this information. And the biggest one, the biggest saying that I always hold on to, it's better to be a warrior in a garden
Mm-hmm.
than a gardener in a war. And I believe that because I lived that, because I was, again, the area that I was living at. I mean, I wish I could say it's gotten better. I think it's improved. But living in an environment like that teaches you a lot of valuable lessons, and some that carry over to the martial arts. So, when you're hearing a car screech, yeah, I still have that, instinct to just kind of look and make sure that that car's not coming for me, or anything like
Yeah.
that, or being in the wrong place, at the wrong time, uh, tends to happen quite a bit. But if you have this awareness that martial arts obviously continues to instill in me, then you kind of know how to survive that moment.
Mm-hmm. Or you can see the things that are leading up to the bad stuff. Where a
Yes,
lot of
right.
times in the police report is, I don't know, I thought something might have been relatively bad, but I don't know. Where if you've lived in a situation where there's kinds of threats of violence every once in a while, you learn to pick up on precursors of like the way he's walking is not good,
That's
or
it. Correct.
whatever it is.
You
Yeah, brother.
you start to recognize, these moments,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't live in paranoia, but you live more in caution.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to say that, and I like to teach my kids. I have 3 kids; they're all teenagers. Well, one is I like to call her the young adult. She just turned 18.
Mm-hmm.
Young adult in that she's an adult when it's convenient, and when it's not, then she goes back a few years. So she's a baby adult, and I'm proud of her, and she's making her way into a toddler adult,
There you
right?
go. I
So
know some
the
30 year
other
olds
two,
that have the same problem, Carlos. So
well,
she's doing all right. Not for nothing.
yeah, right. Well, we do what we can and guide them.
Yeah,
The rest
brother.
is on them. That's it. That's all we can do. We have them for a moment, and then they're on their own.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So what was your first art?
I kind of started informally.
Mm-hmm.
There was a good friend of mine who went to, I'm going to butcher this name, the Durgerberg Academy.
Yeah.
I think I got it right.
Mm-hmm.
He would go there, and he'd mostly focus on kickboxing. And then one day he started doing sticks, and he was showing me all this stuff. I go to his house, to his yard, and he's showing me how to kick and how to box. And oddly enough, the boxing came naturally to me.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what I got into mostly. And then I guess through high school, I really didn't sign up into a martial arts school until I think it was 2021.
Hmm.
And like many martial artists, I started in Taekwondo,
Okay. Yeah.
and I did that for a few years. I was blessed to have a really cool instructor that brought in other instructors from other arts. So we would
Mm-hmm.
do Jeet Kune Do. He himself would do kickboxing with us, or Hapkido, Gumdo, the Korean sword art. So he was pretty open. So I think that was a good way for me to start.
Mm-hmm.
And then after almost 3 years, and at this point I had gotten my second degree black belt, I started to explore more. And I remember finding this JKD school out in Bloomingdale. And the reason I found it was because my wife and I were planning our wedding.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a photographer out in Bloomingdale. And we started driving out there, and she was driving. And I'm just looking around, and I'm like, JKD Concepts. And there was a cool picture of Bruce Lee that I'm like, you know what? When we finish with the photographer, let's go back. I need to stop in there and get some information. And I did. I didn't come back right away. I waited till after the marriage, and
Mm-hmm.
settled in with my wife. And then I went back. And that was the beginning of exploring more arts. And I was still kind of in touch with my Taekwondo instructor. And at some point, when I gained more experience, he allowed me to do workshops. That way, his
Okay.
students can see what else was out there, which is really cool. Not many instructors will do
No.
that.
Mm-mm.
So my respects to Grandmaster Rodriguez, Juan Rodriguez from Taekwondo martial arts. Wonderful human being. He's still around teaching to this day. But in the Jeet Kune Do Concepts group, and it was more of a PFS group,
Mm-hmm.
so we were really focusing on the RAD program, which I enjoyed it, and then I still hold on to that to this day. There's a lot of value to it. The instructor there, Matt Numerich, I'll drop his name, Seafood Matt Numerich. He's no longer in Illinois. He's somewhere in Arizona, but he was teaching, a variety of things that
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't really seen. the biggest component where I found myself lacking was the ground game because I never really touched grappling until I came to that school. And it was an eye opener. And
Yeah.
I really appreciate, where Seafood Numeric took me into JKD. And I did it for a bit. I did it for a while. And then I left and I found another place called Midway Korenkan, where it was traditional jujitsu, meaning it was also judo.
Mm-hmm.
And there was another gentleman there that was teaching DTS. But I only did it for a few months. In any case, my wife was originally from Bloomington, Illinois, and
Okay.
we'd go out there, hang out with my mother-in-law, and I'm like, well, I wonder if there's any JKD groups out here.
Ha.
So I started, searching it, and lo and behold, a good friend of mine now, a brother of mine, Terry Crutcher, was out there running a JKD group. So I met with him, and we're doing JKD, and he's checking me out, and he's like, hey, let me show you something else. And I'm like, okay, well, what do you have? And that was my introduction to the Dog Brothers martial arts. And so in that moment, he was teaching me the footwork and different things, different ideas, different training methods. For the life of me, I could not get the footwork. I don't know what it was. It just wasn't clicking. So eventually it did, later
Mm-hmm.
on as I kept working on it. But through him, I got to meet, Mark Denny, and, he kind of took us under his wing. Another gentleman by the name of Pete Juska, who's retired now. He's no longer practicing any martial art. But he goes by the name of Smiling Dog within the Dog Brothers circle.
Yeah.
This is a 6'4" guy, well over 200 pounds. In his prime, he was just all muscle.
Mm-hmm.
I'm about 5'7". At the time, I was about 170, and we started learning from Terry, but because he was in Bloomington and we were back here, him and I were just the only guys that were kind of taking on the material, going to the seminars, starting to spar.
Mm-hmm.
And again, he was just such a bigger man than I was. And at some point, it felt like we were coming along nicely, where we were kind of evenly matched,
Mm-hmm.
considering the size discrepancy. But all of a sudden, he also started getting into MMA, and his skill level just left me way down here. But he was such a great training partner for me because he was such a big dude, and he wouldn't try to break me, but more to teach me,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because and I got this from Terry, who I don't know if he got it from Guru Dan, but if you break your toy, then you have nothing else to play with.
Yeah,
And
bro.
that has always stuck with me to this day. All right. So then Pete's like, well, we started bringing Crafty out here to our neck of the woods.
Mm-hmm.
And Pete calls me one day. He's like, hey, man, let's go to a gathering. And I'm driving, right? And I'm like, I pull over. I'm like, to a Dog Brother gathering? He's like, yeah, man, let's do it. And I had to think about it for a couple of minutes. I'm like, you know what? All right, let's do it. And this was back in 2011. And because of him too, I feel that he encouraged me to pursue this even more than I thought I would have wanted to,
Mm-hmm.
and it worked out. It worked out. So now looking back, Terry Crutcher, who goes by Sea Shadow Dog, Smiling Dog, and myself, we then started to create our training groups. So
Mm-hmm.
Pete had his training group, I had a training group, Terry had his in Bloomington, and then all of a sudden, other guys from around the Midwest started to develop their own training groups. Ken LaFleur, who I believe you've met,
Yeah.
um, Jake Olson from Kentucky. In any case, we started to formulate our I don't want to say it's a separate group from the Dog Brothers or from DBMA because it's not,
Sure.
but it became more of the DBMA Midwest Collective,
Mm-hmm.
right? So a bunch of the training groups in the Midwest would get together to kind of hone, our abilities, our skill set. We'd spar with each other because you could only spar your students or training partners for so long until it becomes incestual,
Yeah.
where now you bring another group from a different area who are of the same mindset, and we bring each other together, and now you're like, oh, this guy pulled that off. I hadn't looked at it that way. And again, there's the growth, right? So we established our own fighting events called the Get Together, the Midwest Get Together. So it's not a gathering. The intensity is a bit lower, but it's a good opportunity for guys who are considering wanting to go to a gathering to kind of get their feet wet, right? or people that just want to do it just because I don't want to go to a gathering. I just want to do it like this, right? So the intensity is not high. It could be highest maybe 80%. And I can't say that some of them have never hit 100% where the intensity is almost as a gathering. But as a ringmaster, you kind of try to make sure. Obviously, nobody wants nobody has gotten hurt, knock on wood, in any of our events. But you want to monitor it as best you can. So I think that's a good facilitator if you're thinking of going to one day do a gathering. I would start with beat the crap out of cancer, which we're doing in November. We do it every November
Yeah, could you tell
because
us a little bit about that so that we could
yeah,
maybe get the word out?
sure. So beat the crap out of cancer was created by three other dog brothers, and one of the main co-founders is Rene Kokolo, and he's out in Canada. So it's not really a dog brother event, but it's more of a way to fundraise, obviously for cancer, but for also giving more people an opportunity to come and try it out,
Mm-hmm.
just to see if they want to move on to the gathering. So we hosted here in Illinois, my neck of the woods. We're going to do it November 1st and 2nd. The way that we like to do it out here is we'll have the first day's training day,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll ask certain instructors to teach whatever you want. So I have instructors that not just do DBMA, they do JKD, they do PTK. I have a gentleman who he's a gosh, is he a second degree already? I forget what degree, but he's a Bill Wallace guy.
Oh
And
wow.
he's a young guy who has kicks like unimaginably high. I mean, even in my younger days, I couldn't do this, right? Kick as high as
Sure.
he could. So I'll ask him, hey, why don't you teach some of that? So we have, again, a different perspective of what else is out there. What can we learn from that and try to use it in our actual fighting? So we do that for the first day. The second day then is where we spar. And at least for me, the way I run it, the intensity is even less than our get together because it's a fundraiser. It's supposed to be more fun. Not that the other ones are not, but this one's, I want to make sure that everyone's having a good time and that we're here and remember why we're here, and that's to raise money. In our event, it's for the children of St. Jude's. So
Oh,
that's what we do.
that's
Yeah. So we've been doing it
beautiful.
for a long time.
I've never heard of anybody going to kick the crap out of cancer and not having fun. For
It's
what it's
great.
worth.
I mean, well, thank you. Yeah, it's such a fun time. It still gives you that flavor of someone's trying to beat you up and you're trying to beat them up kind of thing, but
Mm-hmm.
it's even more friendlier,
Yeah.
and you get to experiment. You get to use different tools that maybe you haven't before. As long as you go with the right people, like I would never have two people that have never used a staff all of a sudden go and play. I rather pair you up accordingly. And I usually say like, hey, this guy's a member of the Dog Brother tribe, whether he's a dog, a candidate, or a full dog brother, you can gain a lot of experience from them, or not. I mean, again, we're just here to have fun, and I do my best to monitor that no one gets hurt, and no one gets has to spend the night at the hospital. That's never our intent.
Of course. Well, of course not. And what I hear is kind of bringing things up incrementally. At my school, and I mean, I think all martial arts schools, we get people that come in and they're like, "I'm ready to fight," and you go, "That's great, but have you been punched in the face yet?" Because it's a different gig once you get punched in the
Sure.
face, right?
Yeah,
And
a
so,
hundred
and I'm
percent.
not. So bringing things up incrementally because we have an idea that we're going to be here. But a lot
Mm-hmm.
of times we got to build up to that piece. So it sounds like kick the crap out of cancer gives people opportunity to kind of do it incrementally.
Yes, 100%. And then, people will stick around. They'll be like, well, when do you do this again? And I'm like, well, we have another event, our Midwest Collective Get Together. And that one is cool as well, just because lately we've been doing it at farms. Another gentleman who just ascended, I think you met him, Keith Jennings.
I,
I don't know if you met Keith
I
Jennings.
met a lot of people. I do. Yes,
Okay.
I think I absolutely long hair gentleman,
Yeah,
brown
yeah, it's kind
hair.
of long. He kind of looks like Hugh Jackman a little bit, so we mess with him about being the
That he
Wolverine
was
or
right
whatnot.
over by us. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so we've been using his farm to do this, the get together, and what we'll do is we'll camp out there.
Oh,
People can come as early as Friday night, have a campfire, sit around, chat. On the day of the training day, we end up, because I do it the same way. We train on one day and then we spar on the last day. So we'll do training day. I'll pick instructors randomly, and I like to change it up. Obviously, I'll teach something as well, and we do our training day. And at night, we end up going to go see Keith's dad, who's in a band, and he's playing. It just so happens that he's playing, so we'll go hang out, whatever restaurant he's at or whatever lounge he's at. We'll check him out playing, and then we come back home to the farm, and then we started playing Dungeons and Dragons, which is new to me. I've never done it until Keith introduced me to it, and we just have a blast. We have a blast all night. It's such a good time.
Sounds like fun, man.
And and all these events that we have in the Midwest, they're open to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And I do invite other people, and sometimes they do come and like, wow, this is so cool, and others do not for whatever reason, right? I think sometimes people don't understand exactly what we do or who we are. So there might be a sense of like, oh man, Dog Brothers, they just go all out and they kick each other's ass and blah blah blah. But there's more to it than that.
Always.
And if people, yeah, and if people are just willing to try, they may or may not stick around, and that's okay. This is not for everybody, but at least to experience a portion of it, I think it's important. And I think it does change you in some regards.
It sounds like 100% growth experience, really, really neat. In the midst of our conversation, or the conversation I had with Michelle, found out
Mhm.
you're a counselor. Is that
That's right.
right?
That's correct.
And
Yes.
so we started our conversation. You talked about having a pretty balanced life,
Hmm.
and you have
Hmm.
extremes on a combative scale, right? And it
Yeah.
depend what some might say, right? An
Sure.
extreme. How do those two animals live together in the same brain?
Easy answer.
Good. I
Because
like easy, brother.
that, well, because I've thought of all this. It's good to kind of contemplate and meditate on where your life is going. I think
Yeah.
we don't always take the time because we're always like this. But to answer the question, is that the fighting, the martial arts, that's my therapy.
Okay.
Okay. So I provide therapy to individuals, to families, and I need my own way of healing, or at least to not continue to carry those particular concerns or situations with me and carry that with me. So I need to again have a safe place to let it out. So training, teaching for me is the best therapy because I get such a kick out of it. And more so than the fighting, it's like I'm teaching them, and when they get it, man, I'm like, yes, this is what it's all about. So that also allows me to heal, right? To not get stuck in the mind frame that I needed to be for this family, right? And my job, it's, I want to say it's not a challenging job in that I've been doing it for so long. I know what I need to do to stay healthy
Mm-hmm.
mentally. And I've heard some interesting life stories, man.
I bet.
Right now, I'm working with kiddos from 0 to 3. So I deal with a lot of children that have behavior issues,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's autism. I don't want to say autism is a behavior issue, but they may have autism, not know
Different.
how to relate to the world,
Mm-hmm.
and parents don't know how to relate to their children. So I come in, and either I'm playing with the kids and all of a sudden I have eye contact. I'm like, yes, there it is.
Yes.
The connection is there, and I try to hold on to that and bring that more, and have the parents also experience that, and other times I'm working with the parents and just talking to them and like, listen, we're going to figure this out, and give them the support that they need. And I never tell anybody what to do. And I'm clear about that. I'm like, I'm just here to make suggestions. I'm here to give you guidance. Sometimes it may sound like I'm telling you what to do. I'm not, because in the end, this is your child, this is your family. I'm just passing by, in this journey with you for a small amount of time,
Mm-hmm.
right? And other times it's more like case management. I've had some kiddos with like some really major medical issues. One in particular that sticks out, and I was just talking to somebody about this, called EB, epidermolysis bullosa, and this is a skin condition that attacks either the top layer, the middle layer, or the bottom layer of the epidermis of the skin. The top layer being the less severe, the third layer being the most severe because it also attacks internally. And these kiddos have blisters all over their bodies that need to be popped
Mm.
taken care of so that they don't get an infection. So all these kiddos almost look like burn victims, and they do have a bunch of scabs all over them, and so they have to get wrapped up too because as the skin heals, sometimes the hands tend to just knob up,
Oh
and now
yeah,
they
it's
they
rough.
they lose that. They don't no longer have like that dexterity of the fingers and the hands,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes they get wrapped up all over their bodies. So when I first experienced this, I mean, it just broke my heart, and I am not 100% religious, but I do believe in God. I was raised Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a practicing Catholic, but at that moment, I had to ask God why. Why does this exist, right? And I think it's later on I figured out why. I had a few of these kids, so I made a support group, and this was out of my own time. I was getting paid for it, whatever, didn't matter. We're meeting once a month. I would bring my kids, and we kind of just socialize and interact. And it got to a point where these families, when they needed product, because they need to order products every month, when they would run out, they'd call so and so, hey, I happen to have some extra ones. Here you go. So they were helping each other out. But unfortunately, I had one kiddo who had the worst case of EB, and he had it internally in his mouth, the blisters, in his anus, the blisters. So this kid sometimes had to be on morphine. But every time I would see this kiddo, he'd give me the most beautiful smile that I had ever seen. And I would think to myself, excuse my language, I would think to myself, fuck, all my problems, all my stress, what the fuck am I complaining about? And this kid, and that's why we have these kids to teach us how to appreciate life. Even because this kid, in his most vulnerable, suffering moment, he still managed to smile. And I think we forget that, to smile, because we think the world is shitting on us. Not necessarily, man. And that goes back to, cada cabeza su propio mundo, how you perceive it, right? And so this kiddo, unfortunately, became even more ill. Ended up in the hospital. I'd go visit. His dad and I would sing him the Mickey Mouse song, "Hot Dog, Hot Dog," and this kid would just be like smiling, right? Unfortunately, it was too much for him, and his body just gave up, and we ended up losing him. And going to those services, man. Let me tell you, it really changes you on how you see your own children, because in fact there is no word that can, or title, that they give a parent who loses a child, right? You have a widower if they lose their partner, their spouse, an orphan if a child loses their parent, but there is no word that we have, or that we've created for someone that loses a child. And it was a very heart-wrenching
Mm.
moment, and unfortunately the group just at some point decided to just kind of dissolve. The mom didn't want to come anymore because she had lost her child, and she didn't want to see the other children that were still here, and how she would have to deal with that. But that was the most severe stuff. Again, I've seen other stuff. I do home visits. The program is called early intervention, and so these are kids that are from 0 to 3, and I'm there, and I'm trying to do what I can. And it's a whole team that sometimes they may qualify for. So they have PT, OT, DT, speech, and then counseling or social work. And it's been a great adventure, man. If you were to ask me, and actually, thanks for asking. This is what I was meant to do. This is why I'm here. Martial arts is my passion, and if I could, man, I would teach it 100%. But I understand that what I do is my calling, and I try to do the best that I can with it. And this is why I'm here until I'm not, and hopefully my own kids can see that, and they carry that, and hopefully they decide to do something, or at least find who they are and who they're meant to be in this world, and just do it.
Year 2025, we love to throw around the word difference maker. I'm gonna make a difference. I'm gonna do this, and I get it, right? I grew up in the '80s too, right? And it seemed like nothing made a difference at different times. And now it
Mm-hmm.
seems like now I can grab on my phone and just tweet something, and I've made a difference, right?
Yes.
Right? Brother, you really make a difference. Thank you for
Well,
what
I'm
you
trying,
do.
man. Thank you.
That's really important. I was fortunate enough to work with adults with developmental disabilities for 10 years,
Mm.
and as much as I love martial art and I see it like in your eyes when you talk about when a student gets it, and most of our viewers are going to be martial artists and a great many of them martial arts instructors.
Hmm.
Everybody, when they see that, will go, oh, there's that moment. Because if you've, at least one person, you've got to see the click, the light go
Yeah.
on,
Yeah. Yeah.
But brother, the idea of you being on the floor playing with a little kiddo and then getting that excited over a smile,
Oh, it's
that
great.
well, of course it is, of course it is, brother. What do they say? They tell us adults if we could just force a smile every once in a while, we'll be happier.
Yeah.
And when
100%.
you catch that moment with that kiddo, I could just see that it just lights you up, dude.
Well,
That's
well, so if you recall, Bazooka Joe, the gum.
Yeah, brother. With the
Yeah.
comics, you
So
got comics and a
yeah,
Bazooka Joe. That's what you got.
there was one that stuck in my head, and I still use this. And I don't know if it was also like a fortune or something, but it was an awesome quote that smiles are free, so don't save them. And that has always stuck to me, man. And so even at my worst, when I feel terrible, I smile.
Mm-hmm.
And because sometimes you don't know what kind of difference that would make. That one smile, that one gesture to someone walking down the street, and you just smile at them, and you could almost sense that something's not going right for them, and you smile, and they smile back, and when you turn back, they're not walking up like this, versus their head a little lower. And I think it's important, man. We need to smile towards each other more versus pointing fingers and having that negative perspective. And right now our society is what it is, and it's very being divided for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
We need more unity. We need more unity. I think it's important.
I agree. I think especially, in our martial arts community too. How affinity martial arts trains is going to be different than how your group trains.
Yeah.
But as long as people are training, why does anybody ever really care what anybody else is doing? Right?
Sure.
At the end of the
Yeah.
day, it's like I see somebody else with a stick in their hand. I know how many times I was told, why would you learn that? You're never going to have a stick. Well, all I know is that it taught my body how to move, right? And
Sure.
so
Yes.
different
Yes.
different things, all those pieces and us in the martial arts. As long as people are training,
Yeah.
if you're doing tai chi slow, awesome. What does it
Yeah.
really matter? But we tend to just put our opinions so much on things, you
Yeah.
know. When I
Yeah.
went to the gathering, I didn't see some of the techniques that I've learned, right? But what I
Yeah.
saw was a beautiful pugilistic expression of Kali,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is the
Yep.
same thing, same
Yep.
concept of MMA. You're gonna see hand trapping in MMA, but it's gonna look like hand fighting on the corner for just a second. And if you spent
Yes.
all day looking for hand trapping, you might only see that. You'd be like, well, that's not worth knowing, right?
Right.
But at the
Right.
moment,
Right.
when the guy's got his back up against the cage and he hand pummeling and he gets a grip and reverse it, that was pretty important.
Yes, yes. So you understand 100%. You get it, and everything serves a purpose. You know,
Yes, brother.
and I'm big on longevity. I want to be around for as long as I can. I want to see grandkids if I'm blessed with grandkids. If not,
Mm-hmm.
that's okay. I still want to be able to see my kids, form their life. But I'm big on longevity, and everything serves a purpose. You mentioned Tai Chi. That serves a purpose and many
Yes.
different purposes, really. But you have to keep moving, and you hit on that. You have to keep moving. Don't become, I'm going to butcher the word, sedentary. Don't become sedentary. You need to move, even if it's a walk. It doesn't have to be martial arts, but do something. We're in a time where everything is just, I'm just going to be scrolling, I'm just going to be sitting. Your thumbs are getting a workout, great. But
If I get a
you're
chance to
missing
get a
out.
pinch, I have the best attribute for a pinch anybody's ever
That's
seen,
right.
Carlos.
That's right. That's right. Just keep moving, man. I think that's part of our survival too as a species. From where we come, our origin, we kept moving, 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 moving. That was survival. A lot of military groups also had that idea of survival is movement. um, and I always remember that. Maybe not in a militaristic kind of way, but you have to keep moving. Longevity is important if you want to make more memories and share moments with the ones that you love.
Brother, that was a beautiful way to put it. And I really appreciate you coming on the show and talking to us and sharing part of your journey and who you are. Many times us as humans, martial artists, whatever, like we have an opinion,
Mhm.
but that's like usually an opinion is like no experience,
Sure,
right? And then there's the
sure.
experience, which is different. And
Yeah.
when I went to the gathering, I saw some people that, as you absolutely told me I would, because we were trying to plan this for like 2 or 3 weeks. You
Hmm.
said that I am going to meet some of the most absolutely wonderful, nice people that just so happens are beating the hell out of each other that day. Right? Or sometime it was a funny way that you put it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's what I saw, and I really appreciate you coming on and sharing yourself, sharing
Thank you.
pieces of your art, and we'll put a link in the comments if for if people want to come and beat the crap out of cancer. You know,
Yeah, that would be great, and I really appreciate you taking the time
yeah,
to talk
brother.
to me. Again, not many people really know or appreciate what we do. Like you said, everyone has an opinion. Crafty has a good saying. He's got a bunch of sayings too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a bunch of sayings. One is, "What you think of me is none of my business."
Yes.
And sometimes we need to remind ourselves that I'm going to be honest, and this could be more of my ego. I'll take all the good opinions and avoid all the negative opinions, because the positive opinions will feed me to be a better person,
Yeah.
versus if I pay attention to the negative ones, they'll bring me down. So that's when I feel like, all right, at this moment, what you think of me is none of my business. And I carry on, I move forward.
Well, I think
But again, everything is a learning moment.
right, and I think, brother, I think we all do that.
Yeah.
We have to a certain degree, and if we're going to take in anything, some of the positive pieces. But the difference with the experience sometimes is being able to see more than one piece. I
Right.
started
Yes.
martial arts in the 90s. My very first time I was in New York City, the very first time I heard of the Dog Brothers. And there was a gentleman there who had just competed. Okay. And
Mm.
I'm from Springfield, Illinois. I'm not a big city boy. I was in New York City about a year and a half. I'm at the New York Martial Arts Academy, and I was asking this gentleman who had just in the Dog Brothers, what was it
Mm.
like? Now, this is the tail end of an Inasano seminar. Everybody's got stuff to do. In the city, people have stuff to do. They might not sit
Sure.
around and talk to you. But he turned around to me. He took his knuckle and he knocked on my head and he goes, "It's different when it hits your head." I'll never forget
Yes.
it. And he was just like, knocked on the head. It's different when it hits your head. And he grabbed me by the cheeks and then he just walked off. That was the tail end. I was like, I don't know what happened right there.
Yeah.
You know what
Oh,
I
that's
mean?
interesting.
Uh,
Mm.
but that was the very first time that I had ever heard of it, right? And
Mm.
I'd seen some videos and seen some things, but it wasn't the experience of going to the gathering. And we weren't there very long. And that was the tail end of a week long trip where, oh my gosh, my body was just hurt. Just watching everybody do it, I was like, I went through about 20 minutes of, I think I want to get in there. I think I want to get in there. I think I want to get in there. And then my wife was like, let's take a walk. And I was like, let's go for a walk.
That's
But
great.
yeah,
That's great. Well, yeah.
it's,
But so, earlier you mentioned about, you may or may not be limited, and that's understandable. But you can negotiate your fights too,
really
especially with us. Especially
okay.
with us out here, we can be like, you know what? I don't want to go to the ground,
Mm-hmm.
or I just want to keep it at weapons. Sometimes you could be like, yeah, if we clinch, we can do the close quarter stuff, knees and elbows, or you could be like, no, I just want to keep it at weapons. If we clinch, let's break,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because again, there are no egos, and you still want to be able to give people, I think, a chance to express themselves and a chance to experience this, which I think is important. But yeah, I think there were some fights where I said I don't want to go to the ground, and then I stopped doing that because I started working more on my ground. But to this day, and I'll admit this now, my ground game, it's not at the level that it should be, and I've really put in enough time but not
Mm-hmm.
enough time. But I still hold my own pretty well on the ground. I'm no slouch there either. So, but yeah, if you come out for beat the crap out of cancer, you're gonna have a wonderful experience. It's slightly different, but close enough. And then you'll feel like, well, would I want to pursue this or not? And that's up to you. No one forces you to do anything you don't want to do, obviously,
Definitely.
because hey, in the end, you are responsible for you,
Absolutely.
right? And that's the one rule
Absolutely.
we
And
have.
the growth, and for our
Yes,
students and
yes.
whatnot. And we will talk about that, though. I'm really interested in having a conversation about that. And if it doesn't happen this year, perhaps next year.
Hey, yes,
Definitely.
absolutely. So are you in Milwaukee or where are
I
you
am
at?
in Wausau. I am right in the very middle of Wisconsin.
Okay, okay. How far is that from Milwaukee?
From
Because I don't
3
know.
hours, I think. Two and a half, three
Yes, okay,
hours, something like that. Yeah.
okay. I have family in Milwaukee, but I also have a training partner that's out there. Rick Stardy. He just went to fight at the gathering as well.
Nice.
Maybe at some point you guys can connect.
Yeah.
I can give you his information. Really, really cool cat. Um, More importantly, what I really appreciate about him is that without getting into detail, he's had some really real world experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He's seen stuff that we haven't. I don't know what your experiences are like. Sorry, I'm assuming, but at least with me, yes, I lived a certain way and I grew up in a certain neighborhood, but he still has seen more than I have,
Mm-hmm.
and a wonderful human being, wonderful training partner, and I know he's also an instructor. So maybe you guys can connect at some point and
Yeah.
check it out, or just take the drive here. He comes to see me pretty much every weekend to train. It's an hour and
Cool.
a half drive for him. He comes, I give him a private session, and then I teach the hour and a half. But he's one of those guys that's committed and puts his you can see his work ethic, man, and it shows. I can't wait to talk to him. I'm going to see him this weekend on how his experience was at the gathering. I'm
Yeah,
excited to
brother.
hear from the boys, from everybody.
So every time I have folks on my show, I always ask if you have anybody you could recommend for the show that has a good story. Don't want
Yeah.
to put anybody
Oh,
on the
100%.
spot, and I don't want anybody to feel they were offered as tribute, as we joked
Yeah,
about.
like I was.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
brother. Yeah,
Which I
brother.
love that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna send you a list of people
Okay.
instead of mentioning the names here.
Mm-hmm.
But they are tributes to you. I offer many tributes to you. I'll send you a good list,
Brother.
and I'll send you like their contact information, and then whether they do it or not, that's on them. Whether it works out or not, I honestly can say I'm having a wonderful experience. This is great.
Great.
I'm really enjoying talking to you, and I really would like to see you in person. Whether you come out either to see Beat the Crap Out of Cancer, to see what we're about, or participate, or maybe come with your equipment, and you're like, maybe, all right, I could do it. Again, no pressure,
Right on,
and it
brother.
doesn't have to be hard sticks. It could be soft sticks. It could be rubber weapons is fine as well. Again, we're all about fundraising for the children of St. Jude's, and we want to have fun doing it. So you're always welcome either way. If you want to come train one day, maybe you're around the neighborhood. I don't know. Things happen like that.
Yeah, brother.
Look me up, and I'll let you know if we're training or not. And if we're not, I'll still meet up with you. Maybe we could do something.
Yeah, I love that. I don't get out too much. We just took a trip to the Inosanto Academy, and right now at this point we're focused on what I are calling our affinity aim program.
Hmm.
It's the first time in 15 years that I've had white to black belt all mapped out for
Nice.
our own program.
Mm-hmm.
That being
Excellent.
said, I don't get out too much. Don't let the I was at the gathering just randomly, but I don't get out too much. But I'd love to meet with you, do some training, and also learn about the footwork patterns that are
Yes.
in.
All right. So interested to see that. The other day, I was filming a short movie. It was I was getting beat up pretty much, and it was pretty cool. It was maybe about a 3 4 hour shoot that
Mm-hmm.
for us to just have like 3 minutes, and it's still in the works. Very very novice, but it did come out really well. I think. And in any case, the gentleman that was filming asked me, "What's your favorite technique?" And the first thing that came to my head was footwork. That's my favorite technique is footwork. Being a smaller guy, I had to learn to move and not necessarily be quick, but understand the angles, the geometry of the footwork so that I wouldn't get hit. To the point where in the Midwest, I was known as having the best footwork around here. That's what people knew me for. And even at the gatherings, at some point, somebody was calling me Mayweather because how Mayweather tends to move. And it might not have been the most exciting fight, but
But he
it
made
was a
millions
fun
of
fight.
dollars making people miss. That's why, I mean,
That's
it's like
right.
you were waiting for a knockout and you're like, I think the other guy's just going to miss. That's how that's going to work out.
And that's it. I'm more of a counter fighter, or was more of a counter fighter. And I'd have people miss me by centimeters, and then I would try to do the best that I can to take advantage of it. Because when you have advantage, you got to take advantage.
Yeah, brother. That is the truth. And footwork's everything, and it kind of ties back around to that piece of was keep moving.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yes,
just
correct.
just just keep moving. I understand how important the footwork would be in boxing, right? And in the dog brother in the stick fighting because you pay a big price. But it gives us a lot.
Yes.
Well, I mean, a lot of a lot of folks really believe that if you're tough enough, you can take it and then you'll
Yeah.
give it back.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I just don't want to take it because it looks like it hurts.
That's right.
If at all possible,
That's right.
brother, I ain't trying to take it. But
Well, in the beginning, my wife would travel, and I have family in LA, so I had a place to stay, and they always took care of us. Very, very good family out there. And my wife, she'd come in the beginning of the years that I was going, and she would say jokingly, "As long as nothing happens to this, I don't care what happens. You're fine, right?" I'm like, "You son of a bitch." And then when we're actually there, my cousins would ask my wife, like, "Aren't you scared or worried that he's gonna get hurt?" And without skipping a beat, she would say, "No, because they can't catch him." And I was like, "Yes, footwork is key. Keep moving."
very important, especially, you know, in the pugilistic standards,
Mm,
right? And then when all of
yeah,
a sudden it's just a block and a punch, or you just doing your combinations and all that kind of piece.
yeah.
Super, super important, and it keeps us moving. Brother, I also usually ask my guests if there is something. I hear you. I hear you in there. That's it. That's
Sorry.
okay. Tell us about it. Generally,
It's
what
yeah,
happens? You're
the
good,
mailman.
brother.
They're guarding the house from the mailman
That's all.
or a
That's all. Hey,
delivery.
is that the Maul dog? Is that what I hear?
It's actually two dogs. I have my oldest dog. He's 11. He's a Shiba Inu. His name
Mm.
is Snow, and then his son Loki, who's 3 or 4 now. I think he just turned 4. Here they're coming. Here comes Loki. I think he
Whoa.
wants to say hi. Let's see if I don't know if you
Uh,
could see him.
okay, I think you did a good job with the mailman. I just want to say I've never liked him. Anybody who dresses up, just in, never mind. I'm sure they're great. Yeah, you did a good job.
That's right. Sorry
no,
about that.
no, that was perfect, brother. Well, generally, a lot of how the Formable podcast came about was for our students, right? And I really like teaching beginners because there's nothing like when somebody comes in and they're not sure they can do it. Just
Yeah.
not sure. And I go, well, I'll promise if you show up, we'll take it from there. Right? And then
Yeah.
as long as you
Yeah.
show up and try. But I usually ask my guests if you were going to talk to somebody, a new martial arts student, what is something that you could tell them, like an action step or a piece of advice?
Well, so kind of along the lines as you just have to show up,
Brother.
and I think like 90% of life is showing up. If you don't show up, you don't know what could have been,
Mm-hmm.
right? And yes, even now, man. Um, if I'm doing an event, I still have the chatter, that anxiety, and it's easier to say, I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to turn it over to somebody else. But no, show up, do it, get it done, and enjoy the moment. Live the experience. Don't deny yourself an opportunity to take a risk because then you won't live. Right? Life is all about taking risks, man. And if you don't take that first step, you ain't going nowhere. And it goes back to movement,
Yeah, brother.
right? In order to survive, you got to move. So to the beginners, just do it.
Yeah,
You got
brother.
to do it. Take a chance.
Excellent advice. Excellent advice, brother. Well, Would you like to come back and come on the show again at some point? I really enjoyed speaking with you, and
I would love to. I had such a blast, man. I think we went deeper than I thought we would go, but I think that's the connection that we had.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And maybe you had that with other guests. I know you just had another friend of mine from Minnesota, Dina,
Mm-hmm.
Deanna. Yeah, I know a lot of. I think we have a lot of common friends.
We do.
But
That's
I
what.
did enjoy. I did enjoy this. I'm more than open to doing it again for sure.
It's great. And brother, for being Maul dog, there is not a human being that I have met with that does not just say that you are not one of the sweetest, most kind people that you'll meet in the martial arts. And
I appreciate that.
I knew you would, and also I enjoy saying it because in my heart of hearts, that's what a real martial artist is sweet, nice, all those, because we try to get rid of our fear a little bit at a time. And the fear is what kind of just leads us to that other side. So it's just been
Right.
an honor speaking with you and
Appreciate
getting
that.
to know the person that everybody has told me who you are.
Appreciate that. Did they tell you why I go by Muldog?
No, I was going to ask,
Nah.
but honestly, I had such a good time. I just kind of ran with everything.
If you want, we can finish with that.
Yeah,
But
brother, let's do it.
um, my fencing mask. I don't know if you could see it or not. Oh, no, probably not.
Oh,
I'll
we
see.
see it, brother.
Yeah.
We
So
see.
I'm a Star Wars fan, and Darth Maul. When I saw that guy come out on the screen and the way he fought, oh yes, hey, that's the universe talking to us right there, Jamie.
Yeah,
We
brother.
were meant to have this conversation. Um, I also shaped my kali sticks into lightsabers.
Oh,
This is what
snap.
I fight with. It's a rattan stick with red duct tape and like a baseball grip at the end.
Yeah.
My lightsabers, and for me, from the very beginning of my first gathering, I chose this mask, this figure, because in such a tribal moment, when I put this mask on, that's who I needed to become in order to overcome my fear.
Mm.
And because of my demons that I had, I was very angry. I used anger to overcome anxiety. And to this day, I tell people, if you're about to have a panic attack, because this happened to me almost once, and if you're worried about something and you're very upset, get angry, pump yourself up, and and then you kind of overcome all that fear, all that anxiety by using an emotion that a lot of people think is negative, but it's not. It helps with survival and it helps to overcome any other thing. So anger, that's who I needed to be. I needed to be Darth Maul, and I became Maul Dog.
Brother, that was great to hear, and I hear my jujitsu instructor in the background because we'll be rolling and everything, and sometimes I'm too nice, and all of a sudden he'll be like, "I feel use the hate, use the force," like he'll get like that, and
Yes.
I like how that moment is like, and when I hear that, I know.
Yes.
Right, and then all of a sudden my grip needs to go. Come here, as opposed to I'm getting my grip. Right,
Yeah,
it's
right.
just
You
one of
turn it
those
on.
things.
Well, and that's important to know how to turn that switch on. And that's
Yeah,
something that you learn at the gatherings. These nice guys, once they get in the middle, boom, you turn it on for those 2 minutes or 3 minutes, and you go all out. And then you come out of there and you're like at peace because you let out those demons and you took care of it.
thank you for sharing that, brother. You have explained the Dog Brothers experience exceptionally well, in my opinion, and I hope more people are interested in that because many times we have an opinion before we have an experience. My experience was that y'all were just wonderful, and not it's not martial arts in general isn't for everybody, Carlos. We know that,
Yeah,
right? And I
100%.
mean, and then the way that we flavor the experience, that's not
Mm-hmm.
always for everybody anyway. That's why there's so many different groups, Every cutting
Right.
edge martial art starts with a couple groups that are usually in a garage practicing, and then
Mm-hmm.
it'll kind of go to that next level, you know what I mean? And
Yeah. Yeah.
Brother, thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate you
Thank
so
you. I
much.
appreciate you. Thank you so much.
This is Jamie Sparling from Affinity Martial Arts and Wellness in Wausau, Wisconsin, on the FormABLE podcast with the Maul dog, Carlos
Wolf.
Flores. And he has come to explain to us a little bit about Brothers Martial Arts, as well as how I think our conversation was basically the positive effects of martial arts.
I think so too.
It just
And
so
I want to
happens
clarify.
that you might get hit in the head every once in a while.
Well, I want to clarify something real quick
Yeah,
too.
brother.
There's a difference between Dog Brothers and DBMA, Dog Brother Martial
Oh,
Arts.
thank you
They're
for.
two separate entities.
Yeah, could
This
you
is the
tell us?
art.
Okay.
Yeah. So DBMA is more of the art, and this is what Pune and Guru Crafty brought out from the fighting experience, from his training to the fighting experience. Brought that out, and you see it fought, you see it taught, right? So DBMA, because you practice DBMA, doesn't necessarily mean you're a dog brother, or doesn't mean that you have to go fight. They are two separate things that can merge and overlap, but dog brothers is something else. That anyone can become a dog brother, putting in the time,
Sure.
being of good character.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's different. So again, you don't have to practice DBMA to be a full dog brother, and a lot of dog brothers are not DBMA practitioners. Maybe slightly, but not all. There are only a few of us that do it.
Thank you for explaining that, because even in the Dog Brothers organization, which I don't know much about, I'm just learning, right? But there's the art, and then there's the other side. And there will
Yes.
always be that imbalance with the yin and the yang. There will always be that. But thank you for sharing that. I think that's an important thing for people to know.
Sure.
Last
Thank
thing,
you. Oh,
last
I think we could talk. We could.
we
We could go on forever.
we
I
definitely
like
could
that.
go on forever. My good friend Brian is he's a producer of our show. When he watched Michelle Kuzma's video, he was immediately like, "What is the Dog Brothers?" And I need to know more. And that is the most interesting thing that's out there. I need to ask you, how does one progress to become a dog brother? And
Okay.
that is directly from my producer, because he was like, for a couple weeks he was like, you got to ask Carlos that. I just got to know.
Sure. So, how does one become a dog brother? And we already talked about this. You have to show up.
Yeah, brother.
Okay. You have to show up. You go fight. Depending on how fights go, you come with everything. There's rules
Mhm.
that have to really be established to be more clear. And I think we're figuring that out too, because everything keeps evolving. But right now, it sounds like you need to be out there at least 2 to 3 times. You need to fight out there, unless you're the exception where you really stand out, right? So you have to show good skill set, obviously good composure. And this doesn't mean that you have to win, because there are no winners or losers.
Mhm.
Nobody's hands get raised. It's 2 minutes of fighting. It may feel like you're being overwhelmed, but somebody might have seen something that thought, wow, that guy or that gal is really putting on an effort and showing what they're made out of. So to become a dog brother, you have to show up, you have to fight, you have to be of good character, and the progression is like this. You become a dog first. So it would be like dog Jamie, right? And then the next progression, if it doesn't change later on, it's candidate. So now you can choose your name. So it could be, candidate affinity Jamie,
Sir.
right? Affinity dog Jamie. You're a candidate. You keep showing up, you keep fighting, you start to help your fellow fighters grow, and then you become nominated into a full dog brother. And as my taekwondo instructor told me, once you become a black belt, it's only the beginning.
Mhm.
So when you become a full dog brother, it's only the beginning, because now, however you feel, you're tasked with developing others, whether it's sending fighters that you're preparing, or fighting newer guys out there and helping them grow as well, right? So that's how you become a dog brother. You show up, good character, and help each other out, and form that tribe, become a strong tribe.
That
But you
sounds
got to
like,
show up.
yeah, boy, you got to show up, and then all those other pieces. And It sounds a lot like a lot of other organizations, right? Because you have to show up, be of decent skill level, show that I have showed up, I have practiced this thing that I showed
Yeah,
up to do, right? And then also, and this is really big in our group, is can that person get along with people that are in our group? Because they might just be
yeah,
a phenomenal, like, ready to be a fighter or whatever that is. But if they don't fit in the group,
yeah,
then it's really really hard. Because
yeah.
politics will just stick its head in everything. I mean, the politics is just how
Oh,
human beings deal with each other.
I'm one of those people that do not like politics.
Me too.
Sometimes I'm good. Sometimes I'm good at it if I need to be, depending on the situation. Obviously, there's a lot of power in word,
Hmm.
and that's a gift I have, right? To sometimes, but unless the chatter gets to me and I'm all flustered. But that's being a human being.
Hmm.
In any case, yeah, politics is everywhere, and yeah, you have to be of good character. Even with our smaller groups here, our training groups, I've never really had to kick anybody out. Knock on wood, and I've been doing this for a long time. I
Hmm.
think too sometimes you just gravitate the right people. Birds of a feather flock together, and similarities and commonalities, and people of good spirit. And I think that's what makes this strong. And it continues to thrive because I always tell people that are going to go fight. I tell them fight well, fight hard, and I hope you find what you're looking for,
Mm.
because sometimes that's what we're doing. We're looking for something. And yeah, and just to reiterate, just because you show up twice or three times, and sometimes you don't ascend, sometimes it does take a little longer for some people because everybody's different. And some people, it has taken them a long time, and others ascend rather quickly. But usually the protocol is that. And I just kind of wanted to clarify that. I don't want people to think, well, I showed up, two times in a row. How come I didn't ascend? Well, because maybe there was something that was missing,
Well, it's
but you
not exactly
persevere.
box checking. There needs to be
Correct.
more, right? I mean,
Right.
there needs, because it'd be
Yeah.
great. There are certain arts that really flourish because you got box checking, right? And I check the
Yeah.
boxes, therefore this means that. But at the higher level of all those organizations, they don't care so much about the boxes. It's like, okay, well, now how do
Well,
you get
yeah,
along
and
with people? How is this? How
yeah,
is that?
and even with the art, the DBMA, and I'm a green tag instructor in DBMA, which again is different from being a dog. I'm a full dog brother, but I'm also working towards, you know, powering up or leveling up, as my kids would say, within the curriculum, the DBMA. Who knows? Who knows where this journey will take me? But I'm hoping I go far with it. That's the plan. I'm taking action towards making that happen. But yeah, so there's also obviously those levels, and as an instructor, I also give dog text to my students,
Hmm.
as I see that they're putting in the time, they're showing up, they're learning the material, they're applying it during sparring, even if it's something simple. Oh, it came out great. That's what I'm looking for, and obviously
Hmm.
good character. And I kind of keep that idea from the dog brothers within the DBMA, within my training group, as an instructor, because yeah, there has to be order within the chaos.
Yeah.
And we go back to that. That's just the balance in life. We have to be well balanced.
One last time, we're gonna just finish this thing up here, and I'll probably try not. I'm gonna try afterwards not to ask any more questions, but Carlos has been so gracious. Maul Dog, thank you for
Thank you.
appearing on the
Thank you.
FormABLE podcast. I'd love to have you come back. I look forward to growing in a relationship with you, and you will see us at some point. I have a feeling that our paths are going to cross, sir.
In Spanish, we say, okay, ya dijiste, meaning, okay, now you said it. So I will be expecting us to cross paths, my friend.
Brother,
Thank you.
thank you
I
so
appreciate
much.
you.
Jamie Sparling, FormABLE Podcast. Carlos Flores, thank you for listening. Like, subscribe. Let us know if you have any questions. And keep moving, keep training.
Yes, sir. Wolf.
I'm not going to woof. I'm not a dog, brother. I'm not woofing.
You can still do it. You
I
don't have
could.
to be a dog
I don't.
brother.
I don't feel. I don't. I feel like I need to swing a stick at least once. Today before I can even remotely say woof. So we're gonna call it a day.
You got it.
FormABLE Podcast. We are out.
Thank you.